Reaching out to admissions, how much is too much? So there's a bunch of different reasons why you might want to reach out to admissions. Maybe you've been rejected, maybe you're on the wait list, maybe you have a question about your application, or you have a question to whether you're even qualified, whether it's even worth your time and money to apply, right? So there's a bunch of different reasons why you should reach out to admissions. And I always actually advise people, especially borderline type applicants, like not super duper competitive, that one huge secret weapon is having admissions know who you are, having a relationship with them over weeks, months, or even years of them advising you, having them know who you are. You're not just a number to them, okay? More about that in a couple minutes. But should you reach out to them like once a week, every day, every month? I would say put yourself in their shoes. Do you really, like, when you have hundreds of emails coming in, you got so many other people you're advising, other stuff you have to do you really want to hear from somebody more than like once every 2 weeks, maybe once a month? I would say max once a month. Okay, now, all of that to be said, if there's like a big update to your application, you really have to reach out and say, hey, I just got a new grade, I just got more experience, something, please update my application. Yeah, sure, that's a valid reason. Put that out there. If you have a very serious question, or something you're just wondering about your application, sure, go ahead and reach out. But as far as like reaching out to like keep yourself on their radar so they know who you are and to just kind of give them updates, I don't see why you would possibly need to do that more than once a month. Probably even less. I'd say like once every, 2 or 3 months, but there's no like exact rule. Just don't pester them, don't annoy them. Unless there's anything significant, I really don't see why you would really need to reach out. And also, if you are in the stage where you are improving yourself as an applicant, you're taking more classes, you're getting more experiences, you're doing more things, you're volunteering more, you're not really going to do anything very significant in less than like 3 months, right? A few hundred hours of experience, a bunch of volunteering experience, a whole class. That's going to take about 3 months. So I don't see why you would reach out for anything, unless it's like a burning question or something very serious. I don't see why you would just update them more than every like 3 months or so. Okay, that's just me. Now, a little bit more detail about why you even want to contact admissions. Let's say you're kind of a borderline applicant. Let's say you're an applicant exactly like I was. 2.9 GPA, not a whole lot of hours, really wanted to be a PA, but was obviously not competitive. Decided to put my application in anyway, got rejected outright, no interview, no nothing. Okay, realized I probably needed help. So, one thing that I tell people to do is apply to a bunch of different programs just to like better your odds. I did not take that advice when I was an applicant. My first time, second time, or third time applying, I applied only to 2 schools. And the reason for that is I really had to stay, or I thought I really had to stay, in this one city where at the time, my girlfriend at the time, my ex now, where she was living, we had just been apart for years because of my military service. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to go away to school and keep this long distance thing going any further. Like, I want to, be with you. And so I really just like limited myself to this one small city that she lived in. And that small city happened to only have 2 PA programs. And so I only applied to those 2. In hindsight, really stupid decision, because if it didn't work out with either of those programs, I would be SOL, I'd be poop out of luck. I'd be a medical assistant probably till this day, right? So yeah, like, don't do that. Apply to more programs. Don't limit yourself to a city. However, because I had that mental block and because I limited myself to that city, I only had 2 programs to apply to, and I really had to get into one of those 2 programs. So what did I do? I reached out to admissions and developed a relationship with the director of admissions for both of those programs over months, weeks, and years. So when I got rejected from both programs, I immediately reached out, asked to review my application, what I could possibly do better. I did this in person. I actually went in there in person and talked to these folks, met with them whenever they had time. If they didn't have time for me that way, I didn't get offended. I would be like, when do they have time? I'll come back anytime. And so I really prioritize spending personal time, at least on the phone, but preferably one-on-one with these people for 5 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever they had time for. And a lot of the time, they said, I only have 5-10 minutes, and it ended up being a 40-minute conversation just because I was pleasant. We talked about personal stuff too, their families, they liked me and I liked them. So we just developed this relationship. And they basically, when I was just first applying, they were like, okay, look, these are your grades, you gotta get them up. You gotta do this or that. And so I was thinking, okay, I could do a master's, I could do a post-bac, I could just take a bunch of classes, what should I do? And I will never forget this. the director of admissions at the program I actually ended up going to. You know, she's not there anymore, but at the time, I was like, all right, I could either take a bunch of classes at Syracuse University. I could go get a master's somewhere in physiology, anatomy, or whatever. Or there's this pre-medical post-bac program at Cornell University, you know, an hour away from Syracuse, at this like very prestigious school, obviously an Ivy League college. What should I do? And she was like, oh no, you should definitely go to Cornell. And if you get straight A's, and she looked me dead in the eye, she's like, if you get straight A's, then it's going to look very good for you. She didn't say like you'll guaranteed a spot in. She can't say that, but she said like it's going to look very good for you. And so that's all I needed to hear. I signed up the next day. You know, I applied for that post-bac. I got into the post-bac. I absolutely just like kicked butt in the post-bac, and I got plenty of videos on how I did that. It was not easy, you know, for a guy that's never done better than, you know, a 2.9 GPA in college, and then being almost 10 years removed from undergrad, coming back in and competing with like the smartest kids in the country and getting damn near a 4.0. I had like a 3.9, I think I graduated the Cornell program with. So some way, somehow I pulled it off. And then, you know, as soon as that was all submitted and I got my hours for scribing and medical assistant, yeah, I was in. I wasn't a shoo-in. I got an interview invite, and then like I did well in the interview, but I basically developed this relationship with this director of admissions. I asked her humbly over and over again, like many months and years, like, how do I do this? How do I get into this program? What will demonstrate to you that I can do this and that I am dedicated and I will be a good applicant? And she said, do this. And guess what? I did. And I kicked butt, and I did exactly what she said, and I did it to the best of my ability. And that's what made the difference to get me in. So that's why I always recommend, if you are a borderline applicant, first off, be patient, because this may not be your year. Next year might not even be your year. It might take 2 years for you to get to the point where you are a stellar applicant. And the thing is, once you get to that point, there is so much confidence. There's so much confidence that comes with that, because like you're not worried anymore. You're walking around like on interview day, like they would be stupid not to pick me because I've done this, this, and this. I'm experienced clinically now, you know, at least to the degree that a pre-PA student can be. I am very confident academically. I had a 3.9 at an Ivy League school, you know, after not being in college for 10 years. Like, I am ready for this. And it's just like seeping out of my pores how ready I am. And that's, you know, what made the difference in the interview, to the point where they sent me an email like, oh, we are excited for you to be in this program, right? So anyway, long diatribe aside, reach out to admissions. Be humble. Put their time way above yours. Anytime they can give you even a moment, take it. Ask them for their advice. Humbly do whatever they tell you to the best of your ability. If you're a borderline applicant like I was, that's my best advice to you. So yes, reaching out to admissions, absolutely fantastic idea. Another thing is, if you ever have questions about like just your situation, like, oh, does this class count as this prerequisite? Does this experience count for patient care experience? It's not on your website. I already checked the website. So would this count? Things like that. Those are great ways to kind of get on their radar with a specific question. If you reach out to them and you're all open-ended about it, like, oh, how do I make my application better? That's a pretty hard thing to answer and takes a lot of work to go through your whole application. If it's a very specific question and you end up asking multiple specific questions over months, that's a much better and much less annoying way to get to know admissions. Now, getting back to this question, you don't want to do that every day, or even every week, or probably even every 2 weeks. Let's say once a month or so you reach out with a new specific question over 6 months, then you kind of get to know them, try to get in there in person if possible, let them feel your vibe, let them like you, that kind of thing. You know, that's kind of the way you have to do it. Just submitting your application, unless you're like a 4.0 applicant, or a 3.5 plus applicant with a stellar, you know, track record of academics and great hours and references and like everything, you know, you might need a little bit of help, and they might have to like you in order to give you a bit of a step up, right? So just my 2 cents. It worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you.